Hello and welcome. This is Jim Kaufman with Rankin Technical College. This video is a helper video for Lab 0401. And I hope you got a chance to look at the authentication kind of introduction video. So some things in this lab may be a little confusing because when this was written more for when we kind of did some things manually, like hashing passwords manually, creating cookies manually. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use Better-Auth, which is going to kind of take care of a lot of these things. Okay. But do read through this. Just make sure that everything's kind of happening, that it says, because it will hash the passwords itself and that, but just make sure everything's working. You'll be able to view that when you get that up and running. And when you get everything up and running here, you should be able to notice that these things are working. I kind of do need to go through this a little bit, I can tell. There are some new things. Implement a new route, like the me route. Okay. Let me actually highlight that. I'll probably come in here and look at a little bit, look at a little bit of this, see if there's anything needs to be updated here. We do have like an edits collection to track the changes, etc. So I might go through this a little more and see if I put some notes in here as well. But the biggest thing is we're going to go ahead and we're going to implement authentication in our issue tracker. And so I'm going to walk through the code to make that happen. Let's start out with the database file, database TypeScript file. And so it's kind of a little bit different. So for our normal connections we make, we use like a DB connection, right? Use that DB object. And that's fine for accessing your collections, getting data, all of that, right? All the things you want to do, all your CRUD operations is fine. But it's a little different with Better-Auth, and it kind of requires the raw Mongo client, okay? Because it does things, it does a few more sophisticated things as far as managing sessions and so forth. So it kind of needs the raw Mongo client. So we're going to go ahead and add that in here. So let's go down, and your file might look a little different, right? All the students, not every student has the same things, and some things look a little different. But hopefully, hopefully I can, hopefully it will make sense to you, and you'll be able to implement it in yours. Okay. So first here, let's see. First thing I want to do is go ahead. So same place we've got this. Let's do a let, and let's do underscore client, and let's make that a Mongo client, and then got to take care of this stuff for make everything happy here. Okay, now we've got this underscore client. Okay, and so if we come down here, so we've got this. So we're already getting this client here. And we're getting the DB from there. What we can do here is just make this underscore here, and then you'll have to change this here as well. Because we're going to use it somewhere else as well. Okay, so you've got the client. We're using that for our database .db, all right? But we're going to also do another method here just to get the client by itself, okay? All right, so I'm just going to add that. I think I'll move this down here a little farther, though. Just put it down here, wherever. So just doing a get client. So basically, if not .get client, then do a connect, return the client. And then we'll do an export here. So let's export the let's see here. So export the get client. All right, got that. Everything looks happy in there. So we're going to leave that like that is. I think that's about it here. Okay, the next thing we want to do is in our source directory, we want to create a file for our auth, right? We're just going to call that auth. You can call it whatever you want. So we're just going to call this auth.ts. This is going to handle our Better-Auth in here. Okay. So let's first go ahead and install it. Install Better-Auth. There's a lot of package. It's pretty extensive, so it takes a minute or so. There we go. Okay. Okay, first we want to do some imports here. So first we want to import Better-Auth. This imports the core the core Better-Auth function, which is used to initialize and configure your entire authentication system. Then we want to go ahead and import the Mongo adapter. And then after that, so this specific adapter, it's needed to make basically Better-Auth talk to the Mongo database so it can store users, sessions, and tokens and everything else, right? It's kind of why we had to build that client, because Better-Auth does more than just, write to a collection and read, do the CRUD operations, track sessions and tokens and so forth. So it needs kind of core functionality, so to speak. Okay. And then we want to go ahead and get we create that get client. And we also need to do a connection as well. So we need to go ahead and import that. All right. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get our client. Get our client there, and then also we want to go ahead and do the DB connect as well. All right. And then I'm going to just go ahead and grab all this, I guess. I'll explain this. So what we do here is So obviously, this is going to initialize the authentication service, right? With a configuration object, and it exports it as a named export, right? Called auth. So some of these things are optional, but we can use this base URL, okay? And so actually, we're going to actually add this here to our .env file. So we're going to do that, and then what was our? So let's see here. Where were we? Oh, yeah. So if you're using a different, I'm just going to use this. We're going to actually have to eventually, I think we're going to be fine for using the API. When we deploy this to Google Cloud, I think we'll be fine without having to put the URL of the Google Cloud URL. But once we do the front end stuff, I think we will have to. I'm kind of new to this too, so but I think we'll be fine with this for now. And this is just depends on how you're doing yours, right? You just want to make sure that you have yours at least listed, okay, in here as trusted origins, right? Whatever URL you're using, whatever port, basically. These are all localhost, right? But I'm gonna set this equal to that. Okay, I think that's good. I'll get rid of that too. All right. All right, back to this. So it's just basically telling to only trust these origins. So this is kind of a security feature at CORS, right? Are you familiar with? I don't know if you're familiar with what CORS. CORS is a cross-origin resource sharing. It's a browser-based security mechanism that restricts web pages from making requests to a different domain from the one that served the original page. And if the browser detects that, it's going to balk at that. So this is a way to help facilitate that so everything works, everything's happy, so to speak. So this here, this tells Better-Auth where to store its data. So you have to pass it the Mongo adapter that we imported earlier, along with the specific database instance. Okay, and then it passes the database client to the adapter, and basically if it's undefined, right, is the nullish, right, coalescing operator. Ensures that the client is null. It passes undefined instead, which prevents potential configuration errors in the adapter. Okay, by default here, we use this email and password, right? And so this, it enables standard email and password login. So without this, you would only be able to use the features like magic links. You know what a magic link is? Is like when you go to a web page, a website, and you click for it to send you an email, and then you click that email, and that's kind of a magic link, right? It sends you an email, you just click what's in the email, and then it gets there, right? But we're not going to be using that here, okay? And magic email is kind of a little more basic. This is a little more robust, right? But so this, will allow you to be able to use features like magic links and social logins as well, right? All right. Now here I've got a model name equals users. Now this So it all depends on what you called your database, your collection, right? If you called your collection user by default, okay, by default, it's going to use user. So if you don't have this at all, okay, you don't have to have this. If your collection is user, singular, if it's not, and you called it maybe users, you need to have it like this, model name users, okay? Otherwise, it's going to create a whole new collection. If you don't have this, right, and you're already kind of using users, it's going to actually create another collection called user, okay? And it does create some other things as well, and we'll look at that in Mongo in a little bit when we get to that point. But for now, for mine here, the one I am using has a users collection, so I'm going to have this model name being users. Okay. Then I added some additional fields. So if you recall, so we had like given name, family name, right? Now, one thing about Mongo, not Mongo, Better-Auth, is it automatically it has to create a name, and that's going to be, that's specific. Not when I say name, it's going to be a name field, an email field, and a password field. Okay, by default, it's going to be that, right? You can add other ones as well. So, we're kind of have to make some a little bit of adjustments maybe to how we were doing things already. Okay, and this is going to basically be used from our perspective. We're going to be using this for our registering and our login. Okay. After that, our other our other routes that we've already created, we can use those. Okay, and we're gonna use some middleware to make sure that they've been authenticated before they can actually access that. Right. So these are some of the other ones I added. I added false here for the role, because really I think how we really should be doing this, and I think we've kind of done this, especially Mr. Gummiston and myself, kind of done different things here on back a while back ago. But as far as when you register, you should be able to register yourself. So that's kind of the thought here. You come into the system and you can go ahead and register yourself, all right? So you have when we all actually get to the point where we have a registration page, that you can go ahead and fill out all the information and register it, but you shouldn't be able to create your own role at that point, right? That doesn't make sense. That's not from a security standpoint, that's a no-no, right? You don't create your own role, right? You give yourself admin role or whatever, right? Whereas somebody else, maybe like the technical manager, they would be able, first you would create, your account, then a technical manager would come in and create your role, all right? And so he would be able to have access to update your record, add your role, and then you'd kind of go through a process. And that's how it is when you work somewhere, right? Everybody has different roles within their computer system. You may be a developer, systems analyst, whatever, right? They may call them different things. It might be completely different than what we're doing here. But the matter of fact is, eventually, in every organization, you're given some roles, right? When you come in, you just start out, they just put you into the system. Then you add some roles on what you can access and things like that, right? Okay. So we got that. Let me see what else. Then we just kind of have to export this, and that's about it here on this. All right. Okay. And it all looks happy. It's no red, and everything's good there. Okay. So maybe we can test this before we do the middleware part. Let me think what else we need to do here. So let's try this. I think we can try to see if we can get this to work right here. I think I have enough here. I actually started doing kind of this other little sample app I was doing kind of outside of Issue Tracker. And I was going to go through that, but then I just decided might as well just show you it, integrate it with Issue Tracker. So it's going to be a little different what I'm going to need to do here, but let's just go ahead and see if this will work now. So I'm going to do an npm run build here. And then we do a start. All right, now it started. That's always a good sign. And I probably have some different URLs. Okay, so here in Postman, we got register. What do I have this under? Better-Auth demo. So I'm just going to reuse this one. I don't know if I have, might have created some things here. So actually here, the most important thing is this is going to be a different URL. Now this URL here, this is a URL. Oh, I know one thing I did forget. Yeah, I'm gonna have to add this to our server.ts file. I have to add something here. I just remembered. Let me see here. We have to add a node handler. So right in here, I'm going to go ahead and put down, let's see. Well, and also I need to import auth. I need to import that auth.js file in here as well. So first let's do that. I'm going to import that. And then after that, I'm going to have to import this node handler. Better-Auth node handler. And then down here, before our catch-all, bear with me for a minute here. I know I need to put it before this catch-all, that one. I think though we could just kind of put it here before actually, before the users and bugs one. Okay, so you got to do. I think that's going to work. All right. So we did that. I think we're good now. Let's go before the React catch-all. It's probably, let's just leave it there for now. All right. So now I want to go ahead and get back here and let me build this again, start this up again. Bring Postman back up. So there's these different routes, right? So we do this auth. So we've got this API auth, and then we can do sign up. We can do sign on. We can sign off, right? These are like 3 different things that we can do. And it does have other functionality. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to, it does have something with update bugs, but we could use our own one, the one we've already created for updating the bugs. I mean, for our users. As far as the bug stuff, no, right? This is only this is authentication for users, so it's not really relevant for our bug stuff. But I'll have to look into later on. Let's just see how things go. We'll just use this to register and to log in, and we're eventually we'll kind of need it to log off, right? Especially when we get a front end with React, you're going to have a button that you can, from the web page, you can log off, right? I don't think that's part of this requirement for the lab, but I'll take a look at that. But what we need to do here is we need to be able to sign up here, right? So this is basically your register, signing up. So the things that's going to be required, okay, is by Better-Auth is email, a password, and a name, right? And then what is optional, okay? And like I said, I probably should have removed that role completely, because we should at some point get to a point where a user can just go in and register themselves, and then later a technical manager would come in and grant them a role, right? And so we probably shouldn't be using a role. I shouldn't even have that in there, but I'll just leave that in there for now. But also I have given name and family name, okay? Now, if you don't have, if you're using these URLs, they're the Better-Auth URLs, if you pass in this stuff here, it's just going to ignore it. If it doesn't have a match, I don't think it errors. I think it's just going to ignore it, right? But so you have to have that in here, right? You have to have these additional fields in here if you want it to save those, okay? And like I said, this needs to match whatever your collection is, okay? You don't, like I said though, if you have it just as this, because that's the default one, then you don't even need to have this whole model name. But if yours is users, then you need that to be there. Okay, did all this talking, and now let's see if it actually will work here. So I'm going to send this, and let's see what our results is. Well, look at that. Okay, 200 okay. So we've got a token now. So a bunch of things happen on this, okay? A bunch of things happened on this. And so let's first, and see it's got this email verified. That's not something that we did, right? This is all done by Better-Auth. It does a create at and an update at. So this is something you may have to, especially all the user stuff, you might have to do some tweaking on some things, right? Because you might have called this created on, right? And updated on, whatever. So you may have to make some tweaks to get kind of everything working together. I apologize for that. But this is all what Better-Auth added. So let's go look real quick here at, let's look at Mongo Connect here. So as you can see, I haven't refreshed it, but this is what I had. I had an issue tracker of bugs and users, right? So, but I'm going to go ahead and let me go ahead and click refresh databases here. And you're going to see it's going to pop a few different things in here. It's all done, you know, and that's why we kind of had to use that client as opposed to just a regular database connection for a specific, you know, just to connect to the database and do CRUD stuff. We needed to do something a little more than that, right? So I'm going to hit refresh here on this. And look, we've got an account. We have a session, right? So if, like I said before, if I wouldn't have put that model in there, being users, it would have created a new one called user, right? So it has an account, it has sessions. Here's a session. It actually expires. A lot of this can be modified. I mean, we can change configurations. I should say we can configure it differently for these things. But there you go. And it even tells you what the user agent was, right? Look at that. User agent's postman runtime. Even tells you the version you're using, right? So this is pretty cool because this stuff we would have had to do. What we used to do in this course before is we had to write we had to write a cookie, and we had to set a whole bunch of things. We had to hash our passwords. Let's see here. on this. I think I might have to refresh this. Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. So here was the thing. Yeah, and even our password. So our password's even. So here's some older stuff. It's got a password in here. It's you can't even see the password in here. I hope that that's not a problem. I'm not sure on this because this is kind of the first time I've really used this as well. I'll have to look on that, but I think it's good. I'm almost sure that it's good like the way it is. I'll have to look at something on that though. Okay, we'll worry about that later. Okay, but we were able to register a new user. It's right here. Here's the fields. Like I said, by default, it's going to put name, email, password's important too. I'm kind of curious, but okay, I regress. Email verified. This is the thing. I don't know about this. Well, I'm going to learn about this because this would be very beneficial for us to use as well going forward. But here's our given name, our family name. These are the custom fields. If we didn't specify those, it would never go in here. Okay, it would just do the ones that it does by default, right? So we did that one, and then we have our session, right? Interesting. Yep, I'm sorry. Here's our password. This is where it stores your password in this account one. Okay, so this is kind of all integrated together. It kind of takes care of all of this. I've forgotten that's where it is. So here's your encrypted password, right? I don't even remember what we entered. We entered secure password 123, right? And then it went ahead and I didn't say encrypted. It went ahead and created a hash from this, and it's a pretty sophisticated one too. I'll have to research and find out what it's actually doing under the hood here, but it looks like it's a pretty good one there, right? So that's our. So it will check on this, right? It's going to check on this when you try to log in. All right. I knew that password was somewhere, but yeah, it's in the account. All right. So we did that. So here, let's go back to Postman. Let me show you what kind of other things have happened in here too. So what it did is based on register. So the register and we do a login. What it's going to actually end up doing, it's going to end up creating a cookie. Okay. So if I come over here on the right-hand side and click cookies, there is our cookie. It created this cookie. Okay. We'll talk more about what everything's in here, and we're going to add some other things too. Has HTTP only. Remember during our presentation, the presentation on authentication, we're talking about that's kind of a benefit. Do HTTP only, little added security, and then it expires on Monday, March the 2nd, right? And this can be configured to be shorter or longer, right? Okay. So we did that, and that is fine. So I want to, here's my email and password, right? I'm going to grab this. And I'm just using, you can do, we've done different things. You can use body, form encode it and pass in your parameters. I'm just using a raw JSON here. Either one, right? Obviously, you're not going to use parms here, right? You're not going to use parms here. You're doing a post. But, you can either do the body, form and URL encode it and do the key values, or you can do raw one as well. Either way. Okay, the next thing I want to do is this sign in, which is also that. Okay, what do I have here and here? This was something else I did at some point. Was that the same as that? I think that's a little different though. I just hit student 2. Okay, so that looks good. So here, what I'm gonna actually do, and another thing here within Postman, it's actually when you do different. So some of these, we do these different routes here, right, within Postman. Well, once you do the one here, the register one, right, cookies. We see the cookies here on that, right? It created that. When we do the sign in, right, this is the same as login. It also has that from before, okay? So just for the heck of it, let's just go ahead and get rid of it, okay? So what should happen here, because basically you registrations you do one time, right? You register, and then like I was saying, we probably should, eventually we get to a point where like a technical manager would add the role, right? And then after that, users just going to log in. They do that multiple times. So basically, and this is another one of the auth. So this is replacing our login one, right? We're using this Better-Auth URL, right? Passing in an email and password, right? Here's our password. It's going to use this. Compare this against the encrypted one, right? If it doesn't match, right? Let me just do that one time. Let's change that and put a 4 on there. And if I hit send here, invalid email or password, right? Obviously the cookie didn't get created either, right? If I get rid of that 4, put that back the way it was. Now if I hit send, boom, it logged in. Redirect token, creates a new token each time. This is beautiful. I mean, this is a lot easier for you as students too, because you don't have to do all this. We have a few files we have to do, a little bit of configuration, but not much. Not like I said, what we used to have to do. It was kind of a pain, and a lot of things could go wrong. So there you go. Now we go back to cookies, right? And there's your cookie, right? It's going to create that cookie. All right. So the next thing we want to do is, let's say we want to do get all users. Okay. If we want to get all users, let's see, that's the right thing. So this is just a regular route, right? Our API users route. Another thing I do want to point out is you got to kind of keep in mind, and you guys should probably remember because it's just recently you did this. But if you have a lot of users, if you do the limit by default, the limit was like 5. So you may want, if you start having a lot of users, you probably want to increase that to a bigger number so you display all those different users, right? So I just put my limit like 50, so it displays, if I have a bunch of users, it's going to display, pretty much everything, right? Just to keep that in mind, because you kind of can get a little confusing, especially when you're doing this stuff and all of a sudden you don't see your data. Well, it's because, by default, it's going to be 5, right? Because that's how it is, even if you don't put anything here, right? In our code, we limit to 5 on that when we did the keyword stuff and all the different search parameters, right? Okay, but now if I try this, it'll actually work. It'll return all the users, including the new ones. No, there's an internal server error. Maybe because I called it the wrong thing. Let me look at that real quick. I'm gonna have to work on that. That's a session expired thing. And I think it's because we got rid of that ping stuff. Usually when you ping that, it prevents that from happening. But I didn't see it until like just recently. I don't know. But so I hit that a second time and now it's working. But let me go down here to the bottom. I don't know which one it's going to be. There's student 1 because I think I did something earlier and I put it in that database from a different app. I used it from a different app I was creating. But here's the one I added, right? This was just added here. This is Sunday night. I'm adding this. Okay. So it displayed it. But what we do is we don't want a user to be able to come in here, right? We got cookies here. Let's get rid of the cookies. We don't want a user to come in here that's not authenticated and just be able to do that, right? So what we can do is we can create some middleware, and then we can test. We can test to make sure they're authenticated. So let's come over here to our middleware directory folder and do a new file here. And let's do auth middleware .ts. Does that look good? AUTH middleware.ts. Looks good to me. Okay, and then here, we're going to kind of import a lot of our normal things, our request, our response, the express. We need our auth.js file and also the node headers, right? And then our debug as well. And then I'm going to put a debug statement for middleware here, right? All right, and then, so then we want to do kind of is authenticated, okay? And I am just going to paste this in here, I think. Grab that. So here we're doing it is authenticated, right? With a promise here, right? And we're doing a try, and we're doing getting the session. We're getting the session from the headers, right? Remember the headers we're sending? Oh, and I didn't show you, this didn't cause me a problem before. We'll wait, I'll show you the headers. I did have a problem earlier. I was saying I didn't have a problem. I did have a problem earlier. I probably already added origin, and I'll have to get rid of that and show you that in Postman. So I regress here again. Okay, so it's important to get the session from the headers. Okay, this is the headers that come from Postman. Okay, and then basically, if there's no session, then you're unauthorized. Please sign in. So basically, that cookie didn't exist. What you're doing is you're getting that cookie. If that cookie doesn't exist, then you're going to send the error message unauthorized. All right. And then from the request is any .user is basically the session.user and the .next, right? Pretty straightforward here. You're going to catch if there's a middleware error and basically internal server error. Okay. So save that. It's happy with that. That's good. Now let's go to our user route here. And in here, what we're wanting to do, so yours could be different. Some, I know that, there's a little discrepancy between some of the assignments. So yours might just say list or whatever, right? Or you can just have a /. So this is basically the get all, right? This is the whole user list. Like I was saying a little bit ago, you got this limit of 5. So by default, it's always going to be that. So you may always want to kind of increase that so you can see everything if you're not using any of these filters. In here, so what we're going to want to do is we want to do an import here. So we want to import our middleware. And we'll do is authenticated right there. Okay. Looks good. And then what we're going to do on here is our route. We're going to go ahead and put this on here. Put a comma, good. I'll save that. Okay. So now what's going to happen is it's going to check to see if we're authenticated, right? It's going to basically check to see if there's a valid session cookie, right? We've seen that cookies. If there's no valid session cookie, it's going to print out you don't, basically what we have in here, that we do not, you unauthorized, please sign in, right? Okay. So hopefully in the video you guys can get all of this. Because I know you're going to have to type this in here or whatever. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and kill this here for a minute. And then we're going to build this and run this again. All right. Let's go to Postman. And in here, so what I was kind of mentioning earlier, I said I'll show you, is the headers. So all these different headers, and I think, well, I guess I don't have one in here. It don't matter in here. It does matter in here though. I'm almost sure. So I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to get rid of this to see if it's a problem in here. Because I did this for that other little app I had running that wasn't really for ours, but for issue, it wasn't for issue tracker. I'll just leave this here and uncheck it. So if I go ahead and here, let me get rid of cookies. Oh, it's got a local host thing in there. Okay, so this was the sign in. And this is what we do want to, you always want to do, right? Like I said, you only really do register once, so I want to do a sign in. But I went ahead and got rid of the origin here. I just want to see if this is a problem or not. And maybe it's not going to be. No, it wasn't. I did have a problem. And if you do have some problems and it starts complaining about crossed origin script, the cores, if it starts complaining about that, make sure you have origin and put in the local host. I know I had to do that, and I also tested something where I deployed it out to Google Cloud to make sure it did that as well. And you actually have to put the Google Cloud URL here, okay? But it's not complaining, so I'm just going to let that go. But I'm going to come back over here, though. I'm going to get rid of this cookie because I just want to kind of show you this. So before we went over here to get all users, all right? So this is just a basic one, right? We're not really setting any, well, we're doing a parameter, that's at a limit. But this, we were able to come in here before and just hit send and everything was good. So we don't have a cookie here anymore, right? So if I hit send now, unauthorized, please sign in, it's because it did the is authenticated, right? Use that middleware, right? It's not authenticated, so it's not going to let you in. So here I'm going to come back to sign in. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit send again. It'll create another cookie. And like I said, once you create a cookie, it's basically there for all everything you're doing, right? As long as you're using the same right URL. Now if I come in here, obviously you see you got your cookie here, right? Now if I go ahead and hit send, then this should be good, right? Nope. Oh, maybe. Let's see what it's complaining about. Internal server error. Let's see what it's complaining about here. I know I did do a build. Let's see. Oh, that's that darn thing, that session thing. I'm going to have to definitely figure that out like really soon, like early this week. Let me do that again. There you go. Right? So obviously with a cookie, it's fine. If you get rid of the cookie, clear all cookies, you can also do that. It's probably the smartest way to do it. And then here, you got to sign in. Okay, so we got that. We're good there. So you're going to have to add that to certain routes, right? That won't be the other, you'll have to add it to other routes as well. When you get the user by ID, right? Same thing here. All right, you're going to want to add that as well. Is authenticated. And so there's going to be a lot of routes you're going to want to be authenticated. You don't want people to be able to get a whole list of bugs when they shouldn't be able to get them, right? So I'll review that a little bit to make sure that we get them every place we need it. But everything seems to be working here for the most part on this, except for this darn command thing that's happening all the time here. And I don't remember that being a problem a long time ago. I thought, because I know that ping can kind of help with stuff like that. But I know that the ping stuff also causes a problem with the Google Cloud. All right, so the next thing I want to go ahead and do is I want to go out to my Google Cloud account. So if you've got everything, so most likely, you should really be using that same URL. You should have that same Google Cloud URL. You shouldn't be like redoing that every time. And I think most people have it that way. But what you can do is, that probably is going to be, the best thing for us to do here, and let me go back here for a minute. So we have these different things, right? We're using this Better-Auth here. So what we're going to do is we can actually put this out in Google Cloud. We can put these parameters out here in Google Cloud instead of having it there, all right? And I already did it, but I'll just show you how to get there. That way we can add, we don't have to, we'll include the .env file in our cloud ignore file, our gcloud ignore file, so we don't send that out, and we're just going to be using, we'll be using the variables that we set in here. So to get there, I'm already there. Let me get out of here. So if we kind of get to the beginning here. So this is, make sure you've got whatever. This is the one I'm using for deploying, right? For deploying this issue tracker. So whatever you've got it, make sure you're the right thing here, and then come over here, and then what you want to do is you want to go to Cloud Run, okay? Go into Cloud Run, and let's see, 9 days ago, 1 hour ago. Yeah, I probably called something a little different there, didn't I? Yeah, it's okay. So this is the most recent one. This is the same one I'm going to put out here again. But we can come out here, okay? Once you click it, all right, go to Edit and Deploy New Version. And then you come down here and, oh, I probably went too far there. Let me slow down here. So under containers, I think by default it'll be on containers. Just come down a little bit. You get these variables and secrets. Then you come in here, right? And I guess I didn't. So here, I will go ahead and add these. So here I'm just going to go ahead and add those values, right? So I'm going to grab each one of these from our thing. So basically you just need 3. The port stuff is, and it all depends. You probably called this MongoDB, whatever you called it, right? It's whatever's being used, all right? All right, and I'm just going to grab mine. Let me actually do this the other way. Move this out of the way. And then I'm going to add, let's make sure that's good. You don't need the quotes here. Okay, then add variable, and then I'm going to do the DB name. All right. Don't need the quotes for that either. And then I bet that's not going to. Oh, there it does have it up here, doesn't it? I want the URL. Is this the right URL? No, I don't think so. I should have grabbed that first just to make sure I had it. I don't know where. That's the container. I know it's probably part of this, though, isn't it? Here, I'll just click deploy. Even I'm gonna have to add another one though. Add a variable. Just for now, I'm gonna click deploy. It's just gonna redeploy this thing. I'm gonna have to come in. I'm gonna come out there. Hopefully it won't break on that. I'm sure I can leave this while this is running though. And I want to come back out here. Oh, it did fail. Look at that. Oh, there it is, my URL right there, isn't it? User provided container failed to start. Listed on port 8080. Whatever. All right. I want that. I can just copy that. So I'm going to come out here again. It might have failed because of that. I don't know. So yeah, so you're going to need that here. And then I'm going to hit deploy here. So really, once you get this set up, as long as you keep using the same, URL and stuff, you should be good. Let me see what happens on this. I hope this works. I'm thinking because it was an empty variable there. Well, the user provided container failed to start and listen on the port provided by port 8080. Environment value with an allocated time as an example of the container. Yeah, I don't know on that. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, though. I'm going to go ahead and I might end up having to go look at this a little more, but let me try to. Let me try to deploy this out here now. Let's see if this is going to be happy here. I'll just pause it for a minute and see what happens here on this. Did I change that? I bet I didn't change that. I wanted to include that. Maybe that's okay. I'll have to come back and just do it again. Let's just see if it's successful anyway. Let me pause for a minute here. So I ran another time and it deployed fine. So it's out there now. So just to review, Oh, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Let me see what happens on the running this from Postman. First, I'm going to make sure that our variables are still there. Yep, the variables are there, and that's there. All right, let's see what happens if we do this in Postman real quick. So I want to do an assign in, right? So it's hitting the Mongo database, so all the data should be there, right? So that's good. Let me get rid of the cookie. We don't have any. That's good. And this was one where I think you're really going to have to use that origin, if it even works. Let's see. This fails, maybe because of the origin. We'll see what it says here. Service unavailable, yeah. All right. So let me see if I can figure this out real quick. I'm going to have to look into what's going on with this deployment. I don't know what's changed. I had a little sample app that I was kind of a standalone app that I did for the Better-Auth, and I went ahead and deployed that out there, no problem. So I'm not quite sure, but let me look at that. So two things I really wanted to make sure that I get corrected and communicate is that, and then also getting, I don't know if other people are getting that, also that other Mongo error, basically when trying to submit something, getting that error as well. So I was going to look at that and then also see what's going on with the deployment. So please let me know if you have any questions about anything, and have a great day. Thanks.